Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hello. Welcome to the IAMOT 2020, the 29th International Conference of Management of Technology. We are really delighted to be with you. Today is day 4, and this is the last day in the conference, yet not all the activities of the IAMOT. As you mentioned, and you followed us in on the last few days and the recent workshop we did, we'll be in contact with you during the whole time, thanks to technology. And this is thanks to the new world, which is the session of today. I'd like to welcome Professor Khalil, chairman of the IAMOT 2020 conference and the founder of the IAMOT, to address his speech. Dr. Khalil.
Thank you, Nizar, very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are around the world. We welcome all of you to the last webinar of the 29th International Conference on Management of Technology. We are pleased that you are joining us for this event. And as you know, the theme of the conference is towards the digital world and Industry X.0. This afternoon, we have a very important panel discussion that will bring experts in different fields that will address the issue of the digital world and its applications and beyond. We have speakers in supply chain and logistics. We have speaker in force application. We have on education, and then we have on cybersecurity and the smart grid and so on. So without any further ado, I would like to turn the mic to my colleague, Nizar Sami, who can introduce our panel speakers. Go ahead, Nizar.
Thank you, Dr. Khalil. Really, we are really delighted to have with us a bunch of experts, not only in their area, but in the world as well. So let me like to introduce Basil Khalil. Basil is the Vice President of Operation in FedEx Express, Latin America and Caribbean Division. He's based in Miami. Basil, he has a wonderful CV. He's managing more than 1,200 employees over 39 countries. Basil received actually an honor award from the five stars award from FedEx 5 times for his accomplishment and achievement and showing great leadership, creativity, and great support for FedEx. So we'd like to welcome Basil with us. Basil is going to tackle the issue of logistics, transportation, and all these things that we have been witness for the last period and those disruptive issues coming from that. Our next speaker will be Mohammed Azam. Mohammed is a senior digital transformation consultant. He is the board member of International Association of Management of Technology, 30 years plus in diversified fields. Mohammed was nominated as one of the key contributors to developing the Open Innovation Index for Africa with the World Bank. Mohammed is going to tackle one of the most important issues as well, which is the impact of the workforce. So how it will be applying the technology. As I mentioned earlier, that the future is what we are building now. And without workforce or the workforce, in order to be able to be effective, we have the important part, which is learning and development and education. And in this sense, we are really pleased to have our professor, Dr. Wael Aql. Dr. Wael is the provost and acting dean for School of Engineering and Applied Sciences at Nile University. Really, I have the honor to work with Dr. Wael for since 2008 in multiple projects, and I see he's the guru in getting. You see that his logo in the EU funds. Professor Aql, he received the National Encouragement Prize Award from the Academy of Scientific Research and Technology, and he is in the Who is Who database about the area of smart materials, structures, and acoustics materials, meteorologist. Dr. Wael, again, he's the coordinator as well as the EU coordinator for revolutionary project with the education, how to make it automating academic research processes toward quality standards, which is amazing thing when I wrote about that. So welcome, Dr. Wael. Last but not least, Professor Masoud Amin. And he actually, I was really delighted to be one of your students once upon a time, one day, to be one of your students. Actually, I sit in your class and listen to your instructions, and really happy to have you with us today. Professor Amin he has multiple hats. He's the IEEE and ASME Fellow. He's Professor of Electrical Computers and Engineering. Professor Amin is known as the father of smart grids. So we will shed the light on this type of secrets. And he has a transformative contribution in the area of defense, critical infrastructure, technology, policy, and business. So he is a multi-diversified character. So I would like to welcome all my distinguished panelists. And in this sense, let me give you some instructions about what we are going to do. We have the chat box and we have the Q&A session, a Q&A part. So if you have any questions, please ask it to our distinguished panelists. Each panelist will have like 15 minutes followed by 5 minutes Q&A. So when you start to talk about the digital world, the application and beyond, we need to think about, I will take the keyword used by Fred Betts in the last session about crisis and how this will impacting. It's a situation we need to think and we need to take serious action. This thing is threat, surprise, and we need to have short decision time. The AXA, they did a report in last November, about the global anticipated risks. They listed 10 risks, and one of them was pandemic. And it was amazing that they had included a lot of security issues, a lot of digital transformation and technology as well. One of the reports said the big winners, big losers in this last move, and we see some sort of industries coming in. And this is where our discussion will tackle for today, to address the new normal. So what's the new norm? How to formulate it? How to write it from different perspectives? So about digital vortex, okay, digital transformation, digital disruption, and the new world. So I would like to leave the microphone right now with Basil to address his speech about the logistic business. And we saw a tremendous move in the few months ago. So Basil, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm going to try and see if I can manage this technology to share my screen effectively. Always worry about that as we're in big presentations like this, but hopefully you're able to see the screen rendition being presented. First of all, Dr. Nazar, thank you for that introduction. I also want to thank the International Association of Management of Technology, Nile University, the conference organizers, and all the people that have helped make this wonderful event. As I can tell you from the cover page of this presentation, I work for a relatively new and small startup company called FedEx. I don't know if many of you have heard the company. We've only been around for 47 years, and we're about a $70 billion company with over 500,000 employees, serving 220 countries and territories. Now, I say that because it's the mindset that we have to somehow keep. Being a 47-year-old company, we have to be innovative. We have to recognize the changes in technology and recognize how we need to utilize those technologies to address customers' business problems in order for us to continue to thrive and succeed. And that is an area that we are very, very focused on. We leverage technologies and manage them as effectively as we can to solve customers' needs in the logistics industry. So, a little bit about FedEx. When you look at FedEx, FedEx is not just one company. It's actually a collection of physical and digital networks that are independent, but work together collaboratively to address customers' problems in the logistics space. I am part of an operating company in FedEx that's called FedEx Express. And for many of you that are not in the United States, you're probably familiar with this branch. We basically are the arm of FedEx that delivers time-definite worldwide shipping solutions. So we connect 220 countries and territories, 99% of the world's GDP. And in order to do that, you have to have an infrastructure of a series of hub and spoke system, over 670 aircraft, and strategically placed to be able to distribute and connect the GDP in 24 to 48 hours. We also have another arm, which is our ground unit. What people may not realize, in addition to being the largest air cargo carrier in the world, we have over 180,000 vehicles to distribute a lot of the goods around the world. And that is a separate network that is a multi-node network, highly, highly efficient, lower cost to be able to move things on ground versus on the air. But that's obviously a business need that many of our customers have for economical movement of goods. Moving packages is very different than moving palletized freight or hard to handle freight. And that requires a separate network and operating model. And that's what we have with our freight network. And then finally, we have a logistics arm that is really focused on solving unique customer needs. And we actually treat our business almost like Lego pieces. You can put the Lego pieces in different ways to create unique solutions for our customers. So I just wanted to give a little bit of background of how FedEx is actually structured and how we try and address the global logistics issues that happen around the world. And I'll touch upon that a little bit later on. So as I try to prepare for this presentation, I felt it was important to level set everybody on what we're seeing in the e-commerce world. I'm certain that during the wonderful 4 days that have happened, there have been numerous presenters talking about this, but I'm going to touch upon e-commerce sales, what's happening, what's going on with logistics, and then of course, what are the technologies, the disruptive technologies that are going to impact that. So when we look at retail sales worldwide, e-commerce retail sales, we were at just $2.7 trillion just a couple of years ago. And this year, it's anticipated that we will hit $4 trillion in global e-commerce sales. In the next 4 years, that is going to shoot up to 6.3 trillion, or 21% of all retail sales worldwide. It is a trend that is here to stay. The pandemic has only helped increase the speed at which customers are adopting it and feeling comfortable with. And it is a trend we have to pay very close attention to. And as we look at it worldwide, we see that the rate of growth in markets like Central and Eastern Europe, the Middle East, Latin America, where I have my teams operating in, we are seeing growth on the neighborhood of 20% year on year. North America, which is a little bit more advanced in the e-commerce space, is somewhere around 18% growth, which is still extremely healthy growth. Asia Pacific is a little less at 15.5, but that, quite frankly, is as a result of China's already adoption of e-commerce. China is very advanced in e-commerce. Actually, the e-commerce retail segment in China is 3 times that of the United States already. So it is a high percentage of total business. Consumers there are used to it. And it's very, very interesting to see this pattern and trend. And certainly that's going to be something that's going to be growing, we believe, in the years to come. So what does this mean for businesses, for individuals in the logistics space and retailers, quite frankly? You no longer can just have a website that works on a PC and say, I'm in e-commerce. Consumers' behavior is changing. And we are seeing that, not just on a computer, which many of us are familiar with, but we're finding that 75 to 80% of all e-commerce is actually being done on mobile devices. So you have to start thinking about that particular channel. In the UK and Germany, 20 to 25% of all e-commerce transactions are actually happening through social networks and social marketplaces. We then have, the marketplaces, and depending on where you are in the world, it might be Alibaba or JD.com in China or Asia Pacific, Amazon and eBay in the United States, Mercado Libre in Latin America. There are about 80 major marketplaces, and that opens up a wonderful avenue for retailers to be able to get more consumers to be able to come and purchase goods. And then we can't forget brick and mortar. What do we mean by that? The normal retail infrastructure. Yes, many of us around the world have been quarantined, have been not visiting a lot of those retail locations, but there will be a time, hopefully, that we will no longer have this crisis, this pandemic, and you're going to have a very good meld and relationship between what happens there from a retail perspective and a customer experience standpoint. So I'm going to give you guys a secret. I hopefully this isn't being cast publicly where people can hear this, but there's a lot in the e-commerce world that believe there's something called free shipping. There may be free shipping for the consumer, but somebody has to pay for it. And the reality is the retailers are having to absorb that cost. And it's becoming an expectation of consumers to start to have certain type of services of delivery to their door. And that's where you look and you see that there are slower and faster speed options that need to happen, lower and high price scenarios that need to be in place. And so having these kind of solutions of express, real-time, or very quick deliveries in 1 to 2 days, or a slower transit need to be options that retailers need to provide. So with all of that information, and hopefully you've kind of heard a little bit of background, you'll see that FedEx has kind of structured itself with the multiple networks and physical and digital infrastructure to be able to support that. Now, what's important, and talking about technology specifically, is that we have to recognize what kind of innovations are coming. And we look at it in two ways. You've got incremental innovation and you've got radical innovations. Incremental innovations, they're small improvements that are made to existing products and services. Radical innovations are sometimes where an incremental innovation might be a 1x improvement in either cost reductions or performance improvement. Radical innovations could be 5, 10x. And so we've built a team of people across the different operating companies working together collaboratively to scan the marketplace on what are the type of technologies that are available. If it's within 1 to 2 years, we think that there's going to be adoption, we obviously focus on very aggressively. If it's 3 to 5, we start thinking about how we're going to strategically apply that when that technology is ready for it. And then of course we maintain what's there for 6 to 10 years, and you kind of keep an eye on it, but you monitor it to see if something materially changes. And so what I wanted to share with you is an example of how we've used multiple technologies, waited for them to develop to a certain extent, and then bring them together to create new technologies that support the logistics industry. And this is, and I'll introduce you, and I'm kind of running a video of Roxo, our new robot. It's an autonomous vehicle, and hopefully you guys are able to see at least the video somewhat. But what we have found is that in the logistics space, and you'll hear this buzz term, we have to take care of the last mile. It's the last mile from, let's say, the retailer or the final distribution center to the person's house or home or apartment is what we consider the last mile. And what you find is that a lot of work is being done on autonomous vehicles that are on the road. There may be some sidewalk type of bots that have been developed, but what do you do about the last mile and the last 50 feet? And that's what FedEx has been working with a lot of retailers to understand their needs and try and develop a solution that will ultimately address the last mile, but also get it to the front of your door. So What technologies did we use? What did we think about when we started looking at this business problem? Well, we recognized that in the healthcare industry, there is actually a solution that has been around for 20 years, and it's called the wheelchair. The wheelchair, actually, this is called the IAMOT, and what you can see on the right side was the original design that came out in the 90s. And a company that we partnered with called DECA was, their founder was very concerned about veterans and people that may be paralyzed. They could not move around. And so he built this wheelchair called the IAMOT that would give them the ability to move around more easily. This technology has enhanced and improved, and you can see the latest version there on the left-hand side. If you're, you know, it's been thought of so intimately that people, they recognize if you're a veteran or somebody that's paralyzed, you need to get upstairs, you need to get up steps. And so they built a solution to allow for that, and that is actually the base of our system. So we're applying a technology in the healthcare space, leveraging it to move, instead of people, moving goods. We also, of course, looked at and scanned what is out there in the marketplace, and you see a lot of companies working on autonomous road vehicles. You have also autonomous sidewalk bots that look like coolers that can deliver somewhat door to door, but you don't have something that addresses all of it. And you don't have something that goes up steps and be able to perhaps deliver in unique areas to certain consumers. And that's where we think we have found a solution, leveraging different technologies to make it, to bring it together. Obviously it has cameras, 360 degrees. It can connect to a command center in the event that the technology is not ready and doesn't know how to address certain problems. And then, of course, what we have been focused on most recently is just trying to think about the human factor aspect. Now, I know in Cairo, maybe it's difficult to find the sidewalk that's even available. And this may not be the right solution, let's say, in a Cairo market. But certainly in the United States, in Dubai, where we introduced the bot in late 2019, and several other business applications, we think that this is a good potential technology solution. So we've taken a whole lot of artificial intelligence, LiDAR, a whole set of technologies, put it together, try and introduce a new solution. And FedEx's solution is not just the bot. If you want to use an automated tool like that, you need a whole ecosystem with a way to interact with the bot, ask for it. So there's a lot of technologies we are bringing together to bring to consumers at the end solutions that solve the business problem. And it's an ecosystem that will continue to get built on. Because maybe this bot is not the right one. Maybe we need to include roadbots, side bots, drones. And so that's kind of the work that we're doing from a technology perspective and managing it in the logistics space. I also wanted to touch on just a couple of other technologies that are in the logistics space that we are keeping close eyes and testing. Robotics. Obviously, we've got driverless tuggers. We are using a lot of automation to automate simple tasks that allow our team members to focus on more value-skilled work. Autonomous driving, I talked about that a little bit. What you're going to see with autonomous driving, and there's substantial technology investments in enhancements that have been happening there, but it's going to be a sequential step. If you're driving on the road today and you see a vehicle that's empty with no driver, you're probably going to freak out. and there's an adoption, that even a human adoption that needs to happen. So we think that there's going to be incremental steps, and we're looking at example with Volvo on solutions called platooning. And that's where there may be a driver in a truck, but then there are other trucks behind it, moving right behind it, and gaining the efficiencies where you have one driver moving multiple vehicles. And what we found is that it's good for the environment too. Just doing that and getting the trucks close to each other, which you can do with autonomous vehicles, will save about 25% fuel efficiency. So clearly there are incremental benefits that will be happening as we move forward. Blockchain is another space I can touch on in questions if there are, but we are obviously very focused on helping develop blockchain for the logistics industry, working with peers around the world. Finally, on the delivery side, some incremental and actually some radical innovations that I wanted you also to be aware of. There was actually a conference, the IAMOT conference, I think it was about 2004 or 2005 in Miami. And as a member of IAMOT, I had brought in a speaker from FedEx, and one of the questions that was asked at the time, they said, how are you going to find me? Why is it that somebody comes and delivers and they know I'm not home because I'm working? Why do they keep, just leaving a tag saying we weren't able to deliver to you? Well, we are addressing that now, and we've had the technology called FedEx Delivery Manager, and that now gives the recipient the option of saying, oh, I don't want it at my house, I want it somewhere else, or deliver it to me some other time. So we can actually interact with the package before arrival to move it around. We also have returns. If you're in e-commerce world, you may not be aware of this, but returns is a huge deal. Hard goods like books, PCs, laptops, whatever you purchase, typically get returned at around 10%. But soft goods like clothing are returned at about 30%. And that is a massive cost, and being able to redeploy those returned goods in a way to sell quickly is going to be a very important business problem and something we are addressing. Finally, and the last item I wanted to share is something that just got announced this week. It's called SensorWare ID, and it's a lightweight, compact sensor that now transmits precise package location, detail about temperature, detail about speed, and information that is now available real time. We believe that this is absolutely critical, and we have sped this up because we need to solve the pandemic. And the only way we're going to solve the pandemic is when a vaccine is available, and you're going to have to move that on aircraft. You're going to have a network and logistics infrastructure to ultimately get it to you to take the shot. And with these vaccines, you need to have that reliability, safety, and real-time visibility and temperature tracking to be able to manage that. And that's where we have built an infrastructure and are working very aggressively to make sure that we can help inoculate the whole the planet as soon as a good vaccine that is has been tested and is ready to move out for world distribution. So with that, I know I've spoken quite a bit. I hopefully have enough time at some point to be able to answer some questions, and I just want to thank you again for the opportunity to be able to speak and share some of our thoughts from FedEx.
Thank you, Basil, for the very inspiring presentation. Actually, I will put two things, which is the role of innovation and disruptive technology. And recall back in the IAMOT 2-3 years ago, Professor Khalil, Muhammad Azam, and myself, we had a paper about disruptive technologies, and we mentioned those four: the autonomous driving car, the blockchain, and shared economies, and all these things, the AI, and all these things. So I think this session will be quite inspiring and challenging. So how about if you're going to move the ROXO and all these type of sensors, how about the normal employees? Are we going to change the skill sets? How are we going to shape the future with the people? So Azam, you have a question, or you have some sort of challenging point to address the future of workforce coming right now on floor with this type of technology? Thanks, Basil. Mohammed, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nizar, Basil, Professor Khalil, Professor Aql, Professor Amin, everyone in the room, and everyone watching us over the Facebook. I think we are experiencing totally new inflection point. The virus just triggered the change, a huge change, a massive change that concerns starting from the personal hygiene to the logistics systems and supply chains like Basil just mentioned, to the healthcare system, to the education system, to the workforce and work dynamics. Maybe it could take hours and hours talking about the massive change that we are facing and we are experiencing now. I'm going to talk about a very small part of it quickly in a nutshell. That's the future of work. So allow me to share my presentation. Actually, as I said, we've been experiencing also disruption prior to COVID-19. COVID-19 just triggered a lot of things. We had a lot of disruption are taking place everywhere, and it's mainly changed a lot of things around us, and it worked as a double-edged sword in a sense. Actually, we are living in an era of infodemic. Since the virus outbreak in last March, we found like 360 million videos in 30 days, 550 million tweets in 30 days. All of them are containing the term virus, COVID-19, Corona, and so on and so forth. So we are living in an area of infodemic that could deepen the problem, not solving the problem. Having such wide trustworthy information is becoming a hectic job. It's becoming a very hard job to do. We are living in an area of digitization, so anything can be digitized will be digitized. We are living in an area of machines. Anything can be automated will be automated. So if we are looking at heavy industry like car manufacturing, starting from 200 robots to 1,500 robots could replace 10,000 workers. We are living in an era of gig economy, small bunch of people making a lot of money. This gig economy by freelancers, 75% of them are freelancers, making like 200 billion US dollars a year ago, and this number is expected to be doubled by 2030. We are living in an era of platform organization. We are living in the era of Facebook, Airbnb, Uber, and so on and so forth, and they are dictating the structure of our organization. Even the public organization are included in such structure in now and in the near future. That's why in last February, the World Economic Forum, the WEF, introduced a multi-stakeholder initiative between governments like United States, China, India, Brazil, Pakistan, and some of the multinationals like Microsoft, PricewaterhouseCoopers, McKinsey and Company, to reskill 1 billion people by 2030. The world even before COVID, they realized that we need to reskill people. We need to have different skill set that is not there today. And this is a global serious issue that be considered by the governments and the big players and the multinationals as well. Before COVID, actually, ILO, or the International Labor Organization, issued a report that employment will be like 5% of the global workforce, around 173 million. And this number was expected by 2020 to be 174 only. However, when the virus erupted in March, in only 6 weeks, 66 million jobs were lost in the G7 world. The most advanced economists, in such economies, 66 million jobs were lost due to the new situation and presenting unprecedented pressure on societies, on government, and everyone else. The economy outlook is not that great, actually. IMF reported in April that the world will witness a decline by 3%. The global GDP will decline by 3% during 2020. However, a couple of a month after April, in June, they expected to have a decline of 4.9%. However, this still it will be a V-shaped rebounds of the economy, and year 2021 it will be will witness a 5% growth. Who knows? Let's wait and see. A recent report also by PricewaterhouseCoopers and McKinsey stated that 47% of jobs will be lost. The outlook of economy is based on 63% of the global economy is based on services, 30% based on industrial sector, and only 7% on agriculture, which is a totally unbalanced economy, totally dependent on not a resilient leg, which is the service sector. That's why governments made a step, and they made a sort of intervention. China introduced employment stabilization measures to stop major massive layoffs. Egypt, on the other side, as a developing nation, introduced a very ambitious program for supporting 1.4 million informal workers in a very vulnerable environment around the country. So let's have a look on the world, the new world order, the world X.0, as we are talking about industry X.0, world X.0. Let's have a look on the world X.0, how it would look. Gartner expecting the remote workers will increase to almost double or almost double from 30% the pre-pandemic era to 48% in the post-pandemic era. For more part-timers, permanent jobs will be history. No one will hire people for a long time. Most of the people or most of the employer will hire people on temporary basis, on project basis, so will face the era of the more part-timers. There will be a societal role of employer. That's why now we are talking about having a chief well-being officer. It's a new role that has never been there before, who will be responsible for the mental, physical, and even digital well-being of all staff members within larger organizations. However, now we are going to have critical skills, not roles. The new work order will be an intersection between employees in a critical strategic roles with people or employees in a critical workflow roles and employees with critical skills. And to be able to do this, we need to have capable workforce. We need to have adaptability. We need to have problem-solving skills, emotional intelligence, creativity and innovation, leadership skills, digital skills, risk management skills, STEM skills, entrepreneurial skills. That's why we're thinking of having a new form of organization, what's called the worky organization. It would be an intersection again of hierarchies, the standard hierarchies, the typical structure, intersecting with the community of practice, intersecting with the networks. Definitely job description would be history, because we're working in circles and we'll have different roles within different circles. That will lead, of course, to increase organization complexity as well. So we need to find a new way for organizing routines and procedure. We need to find new way to organizing relationship with other firms and new ways for distributing responsibilities among our workforce, working inside the organization or remotely. we need to have the concept we are designing everything, and I mean everything, not only the workplace, the work dynamics. We need to design everything for resilience, not only efficiency. COVID proved that resilience is an important factor, and without having such a the concept of resilience within our mind, I think would be very hard to be competitive and to be in the marketplace or playing a leading role in post-COVID-19 era. And finally, we have unanswered questions: how we could create jobs, a decent job, for almost 1.5 billion workers all over the world. Almost 50% of the global workforce are of low and middle skilled individuals. This is unanswered questions, and I think that all of the community, the business community, the non-governmental actors, the International Association of Management of Technology, and even the extended community of management of technology, we need to think of, we will have jobs for people having AI skills, or they are excelling in data science. But this is not the whole population. Half of the population, they are of low and middle skilled individuals. Basil gave an example of having robots, having a sort of autonomous vehicles of the delivering. This will impact the people who are delivering physically things, and this is it was a decent job for a low and middle skilled individuals. We have too many challenges. We need to think ahead of time. We need to think for the future. If we need to have a competitive, capable, and peaceful economy and society in our world. And finally, thank you so much, and sorry if I was a little bit long. Thank you.
Thank you, for Mohammed, for another inspiring presentation. Actually, you triggered a lot of questions in my mind. If I am an employer, what shall I do with my staff? How I'm going to develop them? The reskilling, temp jobs, the chief well-being officer. It's a nice terminology. I hope those the gentlemen in the HR will not take it like a trend, and they will change their LinkedIn profile to be the chief well-being officer, as they did in digital transformation. Critical skills is extremely important, and working in circles. All these things, at the end of the day, I need to think of what's the role of my HR team, what's the role of my employees, and skills and competencies. And therefore, I think Dr. Wael will be able to give us some insights, again, to challenge more and more. I can see people raising their hands and putting their questions. Basil, you can check the Q&A. There is a question for you from Dr. Osman, and then the pace is going to be more and more. So, Dr. Wael, we are all waiting to see the magic box in education and learning and skills. And you are the guru in this, mastering all these research things. Dr. Wael, floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nizar. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. Actually, everyone knows how much I am a fan for management of technology and how much this would affect our lives. Actually, it would be very interesting and inspiring to listen to the different aspects from the different presentations presented so far. And actually, what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit more different. It's about really how you can introduce some sort of intelligence to the social aspect of the learning process. Because the education is not just providing knowledge, but also interacting with people and how you are building character. And this is actually the main idea or the hidden treasure in successful institutions. As Muhammad Azam has presented, part of one of the actual criteria or competences in the future is being socially intelligent. So being socially intelligent means that you don't need only to know some knowledge or information, but also you need to be able to interact with people, to inject those into the community and generate revenue and wealth. So let me share the presentation that I have prepared with you so that we can go through. It contains some technical parts, pretty much mostly technical parts, but really addresses one of the items that we are really struggling about in the education in Egypt. Okay. The first thing is that actually this is a project that is funded by the European Commission through a program called Erasmus Plus Key Action 2, Capacity Building in Higher Education. And it is actually targeting an issue where we are actually trying to integrate or couple an objective function, which is quality system in the education in its holistic way with every single process and procedure inside the academic institution. This project started in 2018, something like 18 months before the pandemic started, and it is much more needed right now. The project partners are here in Egypt and in EU. We have 4 universities. We have the Ministry of Higher Education. We have the National Authority for Quality Assurance and Accreditation. And from Europe, we have 3 universities, one in Sweden, which is the KTH, Royal Institute of Technology, and Staffordshire from UK, as well as the University of Oviedo in Spain. So before starting, I would like to give some sort of an overview of really how the institutions, academic institutions are building their operations. Usually we have students, we have educators, we have research centers, and we have an administrative process that interrelates the relationship between those 3 key stakeholders, internal key stakeholders of the institution itself. Yet, so far, institutions, they are running on what we call an open loop system. Open loop system means that you are trying to provide the service, you are giving the information, you are developing some research without really one clear objective function that is really controlled or managed through some sort of measurement or intelligence system to be able to achieve its objectives. So usually institutions, they run that, they have run for that for years. But now I believe it's time to direct the institution itself and transform its operation based on the objective of the quality system. So if, for example, you are targeting research as part of the main pillars of quality system, then you have the ability for an institution building on the system that we have developed or are developing to transform its processes, internal processes, that every single item is aligned towards this objective. If in the next 3 years your objective is pure financial, then you have the capability to transform the institutional operation and procedures with control system towards this particular objective. It is, again, like Basir have mentioned, it is like the Lego parts. You can really put things together towards building a pure research institution or pure profitable institution. That's up to you based on the operations. How we are doing this? We are doing this basically while studying the intelligence of the institution itself. Every academic institution in the world, they have at least 3 or 4 pillars, which is learning, research, community development, and innovation boosting. Definitely there are more coming. Some of them are already here. Some of them are coming in the next few years. But from those mission pillars, we are also have operation processes that really have to make sure that those mission pillars are satisfied. So in order for a semi-intelligent education system to be able to achieve its goals, there are always sensors to measure the performance of every of those aspects. They send the signals to a decision maker or a manager in order to make the processing and then click the action button in order to achieve its goals. It is bound by academic authorities, regulations, and constraints, and with an objective function of the job market. This is, if you look at it, it's a simple optimization problem. Not simple, it's a multi-variable, multi-input, multi-output optimization problem. That's how we are really tackled this one. So we tackled it from a control perspective and from a mathematics perspective. So what we look at that, it is that we are introducing another thing in the loop. We are introducing some sort of intelligence inside every single process in the academic institution. Such intelligence means that if you are running a process itself, there are inherent variables that measure its performance and inherent control elements that really improve its performance. We call it performance measurement variables and process control variables. Earlier stage, those two variables were really vaguely measured, and the decision was taken by the manager itself. Currently, we are developing a system that central units, processing units, intelligent units, based on defined algorithm and learning approaches, they measure those variables and introduce control actions. Some of them are implemented autonomously, and some of them are fed back to the manager in order, or the leader in the institution, in order to achieve its goals, while maintaining an active channel of communication back and forth between the different processes themselves. This is actually the philosophy or the foundation of the industry IR 4.0, building on IoT or Internet of Things, that is inherent in every process that we have. How we reach that? That we have formulated our objective for Nile University in particular, and it is just we're trying to develop a quality-oriented, smart, autonomous academic and research and administrative university environment, and we're doing that by developing a smart digital platform. The objective for that is really to give the management or the leadership a proper fact-based decision-making process and an autonomous operation and transparency, which is really very, very, very important in order to achieve its goals. Our target is not just to deliver knowledge, to deliver know-how. This has been done for years. However, our target now is to build character. In order to build character, you have to tap into every single aspect of the human life inside the academic institution. And that's what we are trying to do. We're trying to mimic the intelligence going on in the industry into the social life in the academic institution. We called it ASRP, which is the Academic System Resource Planning, which is actually the counterpart for the Enterprise Resource Planning, because we are not interested much into the development of the administrative system itself, the finance, the HR, the procurement. Rather, we are interested into a complete set, another set of processes that are really going to be of much more importance to us as we go and as we speak. Our approach that we have followed, we started, of course, with the gap analysis, and then we took some time in really making a proper anatomy of the university processes. Then we introduced the automation. We programmed a controller to manage all those together. We started reforming the processes that were not digital into a digital form. Then we are going to start the validation in 6 months, and hopefully in 1 year we go live. Otherwise, the commission is going to kill us because we did not deliver the targets of the fund itself. So started with the anatomy of the processes. The first thing is that we have taken a look at the university, and we said that we are dividing the university into missions or mission statements, which is exactly what's written in the mission. We have then taken the mission serving processes, we have defined that, and then we took another step into defining the process itself, into its very fine elemental ingredients in order to be able to tap into program and to even to quantify and to go on with the control system. We have classified 4 different types of segments into the institution, which is the academic processes, research, innovation, entrepreneurship, and professional development processes. Every one of them is subcategorized into different set of processes, as well as in different set of control elements and control variables, as we are going to elaborate a little bit later. So far, we have actually defined 356 processes into the institution itself, which is a good deal to start with. In the future, it's planned to increase as we go in order to expand beyond what we have reached so far. How we are defining a process? We are defining a process based on 7 major components. The first thing is actually we have to define who is the beneficiary and who is the service provider. What is the function? What is the evidence of this function to be delivered? What is the relevance to the academic system? How to measure the performance and how to control the performance, in addition to every single step in the process itself. The steps themselves are classified into that classify the procedures type, the initiator who initiated the procedures, the triggering events, the action, what are we passing on the information or data, and the recipient of that, and how we're going to process this one. It is categorized into 4 main categories: the planning stage, every process, the planning stage, the implementation stage, the measurement stage, and the control stage. So, I mean, this is an elaboration of the process definition or process analysis of any system. In addition to that, we have introduced what we call a process footprint. The footprint itself is a quantification means for the process. So after we really identify every one of the 6 or 7 elements of the process, giving them proper coding, we could generate a barcode for the process. What is the importance of this barcode of the process? It's very important because this barcode of the process is going to be like its ID. So if there are two IDs that are similar, that means those two processes are very similar to each other. And this has helped us a lot in the following stage. This is how a sample process would look like after we define it into its elements. For those who are being introduced to automatic control system, this is how we are running our processes. Our process starts with actually having a benchmark values. Then the process runs. There are PMVs, which call the performance measurement variables. We measure them, we analyze those, we introduce it to the controller in order to generate the control variables that are going to re-influence the process performance according to measurement. And this is a continuous process for improvement. Going back to the footprint case, as I mentioned, it is a quality tailored system. That means if I have any quality standard or any quality system is composed of different standards, and every standard has some criteria within that. If I did the footprint or the barcode for those criteria, and I do the same barcode for the processes inside the institution itself, and with mathematical cross correlation, I can mathematically accurately identify those processes that are more relevant or with more impact on any particular criteria of the quality system that I'm looking for. Which means, in another word, if I'm going to have a quality standard or a standard that is much more focused on profit, with particular standards or criteria for that, and I have the footprint for those criteria, with mathematical calculation, I can align the performance and design the control variables in the academic system to direct all the processes towards profitability. If it is for research, then for research and innovation development, and so forth. So we have developed a system when plugging in the university, it has the ingredients to shift the institution itself towards a particular goal or a particular objective based on the quality system or the system that we are targeting. And this is just a graphical representing how we are going to use the cross correlation. We use a control system where we are actually having a control variables, and we do some mathematical calculations, which a control system called nonlinear model predictive control system, which is famous in the process control and factory automation. We have taken this one, it's a multi-input, multi-output control system. It's a nonlinear, and we have used the same mathematics, the same formulae in order, and we plugged in the system, the model that we have for our institution with the footprint, with the control variables and the measurement variables, with the optimization functions and everything. And currently, as we speak right now, my colleagues at the university are running a simulation for the full-fledged system at Nile University, comprising over 2,000 variables, over 1,200 different elements or deliverables in the processes. It's a massive simulation that really needs a supercomputer in order to generate this in proper timing. This is actually the digital system that we are restructuring Nile University in order to achieve our goal. This system is actually for how we do things. We have main pillars, which are basic tools or digital tools in any learning system. We have our website, we have learning management system, student information system, we have Dynamics or Microsoft or whatever system for as an ERP, we have service desk. Within those big foundational service engines, there are functions that are needed in order to achieve this optimization goals, which have been characterized as different components listed in here. Above those basic or foundational services, we have also started developing other set of services that were not inherent in those on-shelf big service providers in order to achieve our target goal for this one. We run the process with the documentation or the data flowing from one step to the other, and until we reach our goal. In the meantime, while doing that, we always have a processor at the end that is really calculating everything, measuring the performance and generating the control variables for the operation itself for the institution. In order to achieve that, we have started developing lots of internal services that are really measuring the performance in every category, for the students, for the faculty, for the presence, for the utilization, for the power, and for everything inside, in addition, of course, to the academic specific competences that are being inherent in the learning management system. So far, we have managed to define, develop 356 processes, over 800 unique deliverables all over the institution, the academic institution so far, and they are growing. We have used and developed and identified 2,000 unique variables that are used for the control of the operation itself. In order to achieve that, we have actually started developing a physical presence and physical appearance and physical interaction system with different kinds of sensors. As sensors are the real one, very important ingredient in the learning system, and they are being installed right now using the RFID technology or anything similar that's going to tap into everything of aspect life. In addition to that, we have, in order to create a process, there has to be blood flowing inside the processor. The blood is in the form of the data or information that carries the value from one element to the other until it reaches. If we are looking at all these ingredients, we believe that we have completed this whole cycle where we have sensors to measure, actuators to deliver, brain to think about, to some extent autonomous processes talking to each other, which are the system that we are hoping to implement hopefully next year and in the years to next in other universities, national or global. Thank you, and I hope I wasn't long, and I hope it was interesting actually to everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Well. Just in time. Actually, you came up with another ambitious program, an ambitious project, where we can think about. Actually, I put myself in those multinational companies working in education and university management systems. They will be very jealous from what we are doing right now, and think about if this ambitious program is coming into reality, then they can be like a spin-off from the university, which is the entrepreneurial, and Nile University is an entrepreneurial university, and all about human-centric, and think about the impact. You said the KQI, and we have the KPIs and KRIs, all of these things will really add value to what we're doing. Thank you very much, Dr. Wael. And see, right now we'll move the microphone to Professor Masoud Amin, the father of the smart grids. And he's closely attached to Egypt. So Professor Masoud, the floor is yours to give us some glimpses and insights about energy, power grids, and cybersecurity for our session of Digital in the Future. Professor Amin, floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Dr. Nazar. Thank you so much for your kind introduction. Egypt, I love Egypt. And my mother's side of ancestor, Malik al-Ashtar, was the first governor appointed to Egypt way back about 1400 years ago. Dr. Khalil and other colleagues know that. And Dr. Mahmoud Alam's cousin found that in a history book, who that Malik al-Ashtar was. So I'm honored to be with my brothers and sisters in beautiful Egypt. Dr. Khalil, Dr. Nazar, Dr. Azam, Mr. Basil, Professor Akl, and colleagues who are on the panel, as well as behind the scenes, the board of IAMOT, Dr. Helmi, Dr. Ani, so many colleagues, so many friends I know. Thank you for your leadership throughout the years, throughout all kinds of ups and downs that we have experienced to keep such a wonderful, unique, and important organization moving forward. Of course, my hat is off to my dear brother, Dr. Khalil, for his leadership, for creating not only IAMOT, but impacting the whole field of management of technology globally. So I'm truly honored. The fact that it's in Egypt is even double gratitude and appreciation to all of you. So I will share with you the background, a little bit of where we are and what we are doing in this area. Before I start, a few opening remarks. And I was so impressed by our colleagues, by Basil, by Wael, and by Dr. Azam's presentations. Mine, interestingly, has pieces of them. And Dr. Akl, I loved your control system. I'm a dynamical system controls guy. I really loved it. It was so nicely done. And I echo Dr. Nizar, you can be the model, seriously, without exaggeration, model for other higher education or at every level, do such a systematic way. What you measure, what you feedback, what's the value of that, and how do you do quality improvement in every aspect. So congratulations again. And Dr. Azam, as always, loved your presentation. Years ago, I told about 12 years ago to Dr. Nizar and Dr. Azam that if they were in America, they would be executives in their 30s easily in any company. So I even know that even more today than any other time. So let's step back, get into the presentation. We are faced both on the micro level in terms of devices to macro level, societal and global, with cyber security challenges that continue, although we continue to improve, but the trajectory of threats and evolution of threats, the novel threats, whether there are embedded control systems, whether there are Stuxnet type of industrial control system, what we call operational technology, in addition to IT, we have challenges that confront consumers in the digital economy. Innovations such as Internet of Things, smart city, healthcare, and other critical infrastructure areas use such devices and use such protocols and communication for coordination and for keeping the system up. And all of that, by the way, depends on reliable electricity as the most efficient carrier of energy. And the most recent spectrum of vulnerabilities, privacy concerns, whether Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, others are collecting data, profiling us, and whether other societal entities are listening to what we are doing, has been persisting even more so. And sophisticated malware, all the way from increased in severity and maliciousness of that code, as well as personal privacy, safety, and security, have been in the spotlight, while our national and international critical infrastructures face new challenges, including aging infrastructure, aging workforce, and more that I'm going to share with you, and then share hopefully what we can do together. So it's not all doom and gloom. There is a lot of silver lining. There is no silver bullet. There are many bullets of innovation, actually in the context of management of technology. I know before our panel, Dr. Nizar mentioned you had a great discussion on the nature of the field of MOT, whether we need to have new definitions. I touched on that a little bit at the end. So when we look at this, look at back in 1998 when I was at EPRI with a group of colleagues, we had predicted that by 2020, we are going to have 30 megacities, cities of 10 million or more population, and mostly in the new, less developed part of the society. By the way, sorry, can you see my screen comfortably? Can you see that? Is that okay?
Yes, it is okay, and it's quite clear.
Thank you so much. That projection wasn't too far off. The updated on the bottom lower right-hand side of the screen, you're seeing the actual numbers even 22 years later is close. It's even more than 30. It's 37 according to the assessment by cities, assessment in Germany, and 35. According to UN, which was 2 years ago, 33. By 2050, given this projection, assuming that there are no major destruction of life, we're going to have 60 plus such cities. Just imagine for a second, beautiful Cairo, for example, is one of them. And if you look back, and has been one of them for a long time. So if you look back, what kind of quality of life, transportation, ecology, public health, and most fundamentally, because everything depends on it, communication and energy, electricity network do we need? We're going to need to triple the amount of generation globally to over 10,000 gigawatts. And that has to come from sources that have minimum or zero footprint on the environment, so that we don't end up with the trilemma of sustainability, which is population, pollution, and poverty. Those are the three P's that we want to grow responsibly, take care of the population, reduce poverty, and protect the environment. To do so, we look at the fundamental infrastructure. As I alluded to it, the two most fundamental ones are electricity, energy in general, and communication, ability to sense, communicate, and not only telephony and internet, but also sensing and much more at the device level, the whole range from satellites to the devices. So it is not surprising that the largest conference that at IEEE, and at the time as the chairman of IEEE Smart Grid, we partnered with Intellect, which is the manufacturing organization, largest manufacturing consortia in India. And we had our first major conference in the area of smart cities and in India. And by the way, that happened to be the largest conference in the history of engineering in the world. And it had 4 themes. We called it H3O, smart home, hospital, hotel, and office. Microgrids that are self-contained for the most part, but they're connected to the backbone of the high voltage grid as needed. They can isolate, but they're as efficient, as energy efficient as possible. And they rely a lot on local energy resources that you can use and integrate local sources from efficient buildings to, if you have sources that are factory, the efficiency of those home energy management systems. It's basically this part that you're seeing here. And it all also depends on a secure cloud and data services infrastructure that supports it at a very high data rate. It also has humanitarian aspects of electricity. So I've had the privilege of doing volunteer work in rural electrification in Africa, India, China. And a lot of it is about lighting, refrigeration, and clean water. And when we step back, whether we are advanced society, use server farms, or whether we are a village, agrarian society, farming, all of these efforts rely on energy and power system and communication, which must be built in a way to withstand any loss of equipment and be resilient, as Dr. Azam mentioned. And not just one, you can have multiple, such as we are experiencing now in the Gulf Coast of United States, due to climate change, severity of natural disasters that we are facing, and pandemic, terroristic, militaristic, or criminal activity. And when we think about this system, we got to look at it as a holistic view. That's another part which is really important. And in IAMOT, as you know, thanks to Dr. Khalil and other colleagues, we have been doing that systemic analysis. We call it the T model, 360, but also going deep in areas that are really needed based on either risk assessment or markets or pinch point assessment and so on. So when we look at this system, there are many factors in it: aging assets, multiple disruptive forces, increasing severity of weather, physical cyber attacks. Some of the physical is intentional, such as Metcalf, big substation in Silicon Valley. 17 transformers were shut down on the bottom so that the oil drained and they blew up a few years ago. And then interdependencies, interrelations, dynamic, temporally important to other sources, gas and telecommunication. And also policy. You have probably witnessed how hard it is to have a sound policy that is supportive of this modernization, including recovery of investment, whether it's the private sector or public-private partnership to be able to recover that. So at the end of it, why are we doing all this? If you think about the systems that we have built, like Russian nested dolls, for whom are we making it? What's the innermost doll inside the Russian nested doll that we have built this whole infrastructure? Human beings. And more as we are aging society, globally aging society, we need different level of services, different level of security, convenience, that some of which are distributed, are discussed or presented here. And when you look at this, the security challenges of human safety and protection of critical infrastructure, not only in North America, but throughout the world, has been highlighted. Worldwide cyber attacks that I will share with you later on in this presentation, combined with evolving spectrum of threats and more sophisticated adversary, has been on the rise. Elections are coming up, and there is already reports that at least 3 nations are trying to attack and interfere with elections in the United States. So first, cyber attack related risk is significant. The threat is real, vulnerabilities are widespread, and the consequences can be disastrous, not only influencing misinformation, malinformation, division of society, divide and conquer, but also damaging equipment, pushing equipment above their nominal or maximum operating condition. If you look at the smart grid that I had the privilege of initiating 22.5 years ago, there are many technologies that are deployed, all the way from what you see on the left-hand side, from the high voltage, synchrophasers and so on, all the way down to consumers, in-home displays, feedback at every level, closing feedback loops where there was never, loops were never closed. However, such technology comes with the dark side. If we don't have security built in as a design criteria in the devices, including, by the way, the chips, where do we buy the chips? What foundries do they come from? Do we know what is on those chips? Secondly, on the device itself. Third, on the communication protocol among them. We use VPN, we use fiber optic lines, etc., but a lot of them are assumed to be bulletproof, and it's not. So the more we think about it, cyber threat is one of the most economic national security challenges we face as a global community and for our economic prosperity in this century. And the more we digitize, as is the theme of this year's 29th IAMOT conference, it provides a framework to effectively allow intelligence to be gathered on cyber attacks, have in a proactive way, be able to localize it, and to, especially when majority of the infrastructure in North America is privately owned, such as private sector, utility networks, banking industry, or even defense contractors, so they can better protect themselves. So in a nutshell, the same technologies that you're seeing here as a sample that empower us to lead and create, also empower those who want to destroy and disrupt our public and private enterprises, including corporate, government, even university networks, are constantly being probed by intruders or by automated bots trying to find holes. There is almost a Google search for industrial control system and available modems called Shodan. Shodan in Japanese is the first degree black belt you obtain in karate. That one, if you run it, and I'm not going to show you today, but we run it as part of a course on critical infrastructure protection that I teach and developed as part of the whole program on security technologies. And also we use that in medical devices, which I created, because medical devices can also be hacked, unfortunately. Imagine if a pacemaker or insulin pump is hacked, because many of them are connected for getting patient data through a telephone or through a secure Wi-Fi. So the daily lives that we have and public safety depends especially on energy and electric power networks. And they have potential adversaries that have used and are using cyber vulnerabilities to scan them, to plant Trojan horse malware in them. And same thing with internet and e-commerce as keys to our economic competitiveness. But cyber criminals have cost companies and consumers billions of dollars and theft of valuable intellectual properties. So that's the first thing, that cyber threat risk is real and significant. Number two, challenges are many and abound in this area. And as I share with you, to counteract that, we did an assessment of pivotal and emerging technologies. The parts that came up a lot were energy storage, microgrids, cyber's physical security, advanced controls with secure communication from platforms, energy management system, distribution automation management systems, devices, sensors, monitoring, diagnostic, prognostic, smart breakers, and in-home technologies. So when you look at all these, it means we have smarter homes that can shift demand based on pricing and load on the system. They can optimize supply, electric vehicles and interface with the grid, defer charging to off-peak, manage times of, for example, for a truck or a vehicle, how to manage it, even use some of the batteries without damaging them with charging, discharging, to be support to the local distribution system. Use energy source during period of peak demand, and then workforce education. A lot of what we teach do not take into account these new modes of both cyber as well as advancements that we can do. They rely still on the old power system energy networks that we have had for many decades. This year alone, by the end of this year, we need to network about 50 billion devices in our utility, energy, electricity, water, and this is giving you a number of what those devices are. Whether they're indoors, in vaults, protected, well, kind of protected, can be broken in, underground, or battery powered, solar panel, etc., in different places. So this is an example from Minnesota, a rural co-op called Minnesota Valley Co-op. By the way, in my background, I put picture of the campus of University of Minnesota in Minneapolis, and you see the Mississippi River that begins in Minnesota, which is Minnesota, many colleagues know, is top of the United States next to Canada in the middle of the US. It's the headwaters of Mississippi River. I put that symbolically because I love and miss Nile River. This is your younger sister city, not quite as mighty and historic as Nile that flows from south to north. This one goes from north in Minnesota and goes all the way to Gulf of Mexico. And in Louisiana, in New Orleans, it looks like not a river, but it looks almost like a sea as it joins the, if you are up north in Minnesota, you can jump over where it starts. So please come to Minnesota. I'd be happy to take you there and to show you, together we jump over the headwaters and say a prayer. So when you look at this one co-op, small rural co-op, before smart meters, what they did, they only had what you're seeing here, monthly read 480,000 data points per year. After smart meters, so that they can better manage assets, they're reading it every 15 to 60 minutes. They're managing peak demand. They're better managing voltage and currents in the system. And they're more predictive, more analytics, what we used to call algorithms, power interruptions, power quality interruptions. But look at the data. They have 1,000-fold more data points per year. For a small utility to justify such investment to stakeholders, to a bunch of farmers, is very, very, very difficult. And your system complexity goes way up. Yes, you're managing the system better, but you have a lot more to take care of. So to share with you in summary, This is when I interviewed 25 CIOs of utilities of various sizes. We were dealing with about 70 terabytes of data back in 2008, 2007, 2008. The more automation we put in, look at, goes from 70 terabytes to 820 terabytes. Most utilities, although IBM would tell you, or FedEx, others, don't worry, we can handle this data. Most utilities, as part of aging assets, etc., don't have the capability to handle that. And not only handle it, but get intelligence, actionable intelligence out of it. So we also need to integrate large numbers of stochastic, and some of it is not stochastic because you cannot assign a distribution to it. It's just uncertain, renewable generation, storage, distributed generation, plug-in vehicles, and so on, as well as new algorithms and new sources. Again, cybersecurity becomes critical in this. So this, if without going into sensitive details, existing controls and operational technologies were designed for use with standalone and proprietary communication networks. Some of it with Microsoft Word, Microsoft product as the background, desktop technologies that were never built with security in mind. And more than 90% of successful attacks take advantage of known vulnerabilities. Possible effect of attack, by the way, all of them have happened. I didn't put all of them, but loss of your customers, outages, loss of information, economic loss, and we have quantified this for different types of residential, commercial, industrial, government, medical facilities, and equipment damage. So looking at just buildings that are a huge part of energy uses in our societies. We have smart buildings, we have connected buildings, we have smart connected buildings with artificial intelligence. And this is part of the cyber physical systems that we call IoT, Internet of Things. Or our colleague from GE many years ago called it at IAMOT in Egypt, actually 10 years ago, called it industrial internet, if you recall. So when we map this, and I'm in the last part of my presentation, so if you're falling asleep, please, this part is a good example. Please do, do wake up. My mother used to say, Masood, I'm the youngest of 4 children, and I stuttered since I was 4, and I still stutter. So my mother said, Masood, from 4 to 16, you couldn't get a word out. After 16, nobody can quiet you down. You keep talking. So make sure you say in conclusion, so people wake up after you're done talking. So in this setting, we have a lot of data. We have a cloud of data around us, as well as we have connectivity everywhere. To protect it, to protect such a system, so the silver lining, and this is not new, this is something I've worked on since '82 for defense, but then since the end of '97 for electric power networks at EPRI, Electric Power Research Institute, as well as utilities and North American energy and power companies. You anticipate disruptive events, like a game of chess that I showed you on the cover, that you kind of predict, except this is complicated. It's subject to physics, market dynamics, environmental changes, and human operators that are the most resilient in management of recovery, but they are the most vulnerable to profiling, to failure, and others. So it comes with the both side of a sword. Look ahead simulation capability to know where the system is going and detecting potential problem areas. Fast sectionalizing, quarantining areas that are potentially going to go down. Adaptively keeping the parts that are essential to run, hospitals, government services, other things we need, essential services we need, and then restoration and self-healing. This is resilience, and resilience enables robustness. Robustness in the old Soviet Union meant you built tanks that are huge and reinforced, but it is slow, it can get hard, it can be hit hard, And resilience means ability to bounce back from misfortune. One hit, two hit, like a boxer or martial artist, you're going to get hit. The question is, are you going to recover quickly? So if you look at the timeline of various attacks, I put some of it just on industrial control systems and what it has been. There are numerous. These are some of the key ones. In the interest of time, I just wanted to show you, we have dug in detail into every one of them. So during Q&A, I'm at your service to answer any questions you may have. And then the number of them, many of them are old, old news, but because our systems are not patched correctly, we are vulnerable. And still, about 38% of attacks on these systems, people, owners, operators have no idea what hit them. And this is about 3 years old, the last time that they assessed it and it was published. So imagine 38% cannot tell you. FBI and other organizations cost these, and they're in the order of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars, depending on the year. So what do we do about it? Here, in my research work that I've done since 2003, after I left Electric Power Research Institute, we modeled them similar to Dr. Ackl. Some of these circles are partial differential equations. Some of them are nonlinear stochastic equations. Some of them are just collection of data. So we look at, and you can click on them and you get the equations blown up, you get graphs and so on. You look at what if questions and trade analysis, integrating new. So this is MOT plus engineering plus economics, environmental and policy. So the loudest voice in the room does not win. By politics, we mean who gets what, how much they get, and when they get it. So we want politics to be based on sound policy, which is data-driven, based on science and engineering. So to conclude, in conclusion, where are we? You have heard a lot, and it all may seem like one garbled mess, that two honeybees. Where is the honey in all of this? In conclusion, we want to enable a secure, reliable, and resilient critical lifeline systems. You need people, organizations, not just technologies, that can anticipate, plan, implement, and as Churchill said, and President Eisenhower said it in different ways, plans mean nothing, planning means everything. Or as a boxer, Mike Tyson said, you can plan all you want, but after you get hit the first time, all your plans are gone. So to adapt and improvise. That adaptation and improvisation, being adaptive quickly, being able to replan fast, that is the capability that we can work on human beings as well as our systems that can handle that. And then this is basically a layered defense or defense in depth. So several of these areas, macro forces, were discussed, aging workforce, new technologies, and dependence, that more and more we're using electricity in everything, and that we are going through an energy transition globally, renewables part of it, and growing threats, cyber and physical, including the biggest one in physical is not terrorist, is actually climate change. And more automation we use, we bring benefits in it. However, we need to have security by design built in, baked in the cake rather than sprinkled on as an afterthought. I know that there was discussion earlier about the meaning of MOT. So this is my piece that Professor Khalil and Dr. Sami and Dr. Azam have seen before. I covered this in Egypt. My former colleague who is retired now, Dr. Lockwood Carlson, used it. Foundationally, especially in our societies where we were brought up, we have respect for science and discovery. And that gives us understanding the world. It's not perfect. We are always improving that. Any application, as Professor Khalil in his foundational book had it, any application of science and discovery is technology, creating a human-built world with vision, values, ethics that are consistent with our future and humanity. Application of that to society either is top-down, we have major challenges, curing cancer, mission-based, or improving elections, etc., creating businesses, and can be scaled up. So this is the domain, this is the sandbox that all of us in MOT play. And in my humble view, MOT-trained leaders have both depth and breadth. They have 360 view of this, and they can go deep into different areas as it pertains to their own business and technology. So soft skills, kind of the human part, is this. I polled about 5 dozen. I created a program, graduate degree, Master of Science within the security technologies, one for medical device innovation. They were derivatives, deep dives into MOT. So we have an MOT which is really 30, oh my goodness, 33 years old. And then on top of it, I wanted to develop capabilities. The last one I was about to do was energy systems, innovation and technologies. And when I surveyed the utilities and national labs globally, they said the part that's missing, one part is in our workforce development is areas that you're seeing here. I don't call them soft skills. I put it because that's the word they use. I call it as human skills and foresight. So my last slide, bringing this down to the conclusion. If you take a deep breath, you hear about everything you have heard at the 29th International Management of Technology Conference. You have heard from my 3 distinguished panelists, from Dr. Sami, from Professor Khalil. Step back, what's your vision, especially in the areas that you heard in this closing remarks, closing panel? What are the difficult challenges, hard problems, hairy problems we have to overcome to achieve your vision? What are options, pathways forward? And what, using foresight, how can we quantify how we start, where we are headed, and monitor that and provide feedback loops? Thank you so much. Here is to your leadership to make a better world, better community, better neighborhood, better city, better nations, for the benefit of all humanity. In closing, I thank you again for bringing this important dialogue to the IAMOT conference. Thank you so much. I'm at your service anytime. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Amin, for a very well-staffed presentation. Another paradigm shift in thinking, an eye-opener. No wonder you are the father of the smart grid. For brighter future, brighter and better future. It takes a lot of weeks to digest all the content that we have right now here. And I think our panelists agree that we need more and more sessions to in-depth each of those pillars. We can put it in a series of sessions, not just only 1.5 hour in a closing of the IAMOT 2020. Actually, this is a very much inspiring session, give you a lot of energy and momentum so everybody can go home and work on this. I know in reality, if we are on campus, then somebody is going to take his luggage to lift to go to the airport to take his flight back to home. But right now we are sitting at home remotely with the social distancing. So a final remark from Professor Khalil, just a few seconds, just final remark for all our audience. I can see all the questions have been triggered. So before we close, let's start with Basil. Basil, your final remarks, please.
Dr. Masoud and team, this has been very, very interesting. I can't agree more of the criticality of some of these things. And kind of to answer a question that actually had come up, and we answered it written, but somebody was asking about corporate social responsibility and doing things for the environment. And as I was listening to Dr. Masoud, it reminded me of, you know, we are always pushing to get assets that are good for the environment. And so obviously you talk about electric vehicles. Well, we want to roll out electric vehicles in Brazil, but you start looking at what happens to the grid. And is the grid capable of handling a facility that has 60 vehicles all connected at the same time? And these are real problems where you might try and do something to help the environment, but the infrastructure is not there. It's not capable. So I just think, as mentioned, and from all of the speakers, I'm very privileged to have participated here, and I thank you for the time.
Thank you, Basil. From workforce perspective, Mohammed, last comment before we conclude the session.
Thank you, Nizar. Before I conclude, I need to tell Basil next time your visit to Cairo, please allow me to be your tour guide in our fourth generation cities. We have the new administrative capital. It's a state-of-the-art thing, and the new Alamein. We are building a totally different modern Egypt. This is totally amazing, the size of work and the size of advancement and development the country witnessed over the last 5 years is beyond imagination. Also, allow me, Dr. Masoud, to also to be a tour guide to be your tour guide in many clean, cheap power stations that we have now. Egypt is becoming a regional hub for clean, cheap, renewable energy. We have the largest solar farm in the whole region. It could be in the whole world as well. So please allow me to welcome both Basil and Masoud to be your tour guide. I'm at your service. For the last comment, actually, we are witnessing a totally different era. This typical inflection era, I think it's similar to what happened in the first industrial revolution back in the late 18th century. The education system, the whole ecosystem took a century to adapt itself to cope with the first industrial revolution. We don't have the luxury of having another century to adapt ourselves. We need to revisit everything. We need to have the basic concepts in mind. We learn how to learn. We need to know the future of universities, the future of schools will be different. There will be a mixed role between the academia and the practitioner in teaching people the new skills. Maybe I might need to go to a school for 1 year to grasp certain skills that I need for the labor market, and I practice this kind of work for 2-3 years and then come back to the school or university to grasp another skills. It will be a lifelong journey, actually. So we are experiencing a different world. COVID-19 only triggered the change and proved to us that we were all discrete, we were working in silos, and we couldn't go forward like this. We need to have a sort of integration for the betterment, for the advancement of the whole mankind, and we'll never leave anyone behind. And this is another aspect of management of technology. Maybe it wasn't there before, but I think the societal and human aspect of management of technology should be there, and we should all work together as one team, integrated front, to have a better world. The world X.0, it's a better world, and always future is better than we think. And thank you again for this great discussions. I'm honored and privileged to be among you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Dr. Wael, how you see the better future, digital future, and the role of education in that? Last keyword and remarks.
Okay, thank you, Nizar. I mean, really appreciate it. It was very inspiring and interesting. I mean, the different aspects, how you look at things from strategic and on macro and micro levels. I mean, Professor Masoud and Mr. Basil, I mean, really, I enjoyed it very much. I mean, this is going to add actually some good value for what we're trying to do at Nile University. Well, apparently everyone is really coping with what's going on with the corona, with the COVID-19, and what's upcoming, and what's later. Uh, I believe that humanity has actually managed to survive at least one ice age. So we are capable to manage to and to survive COVID-19 and what's upcoming. I mean, according to some statistics, I mean, we're going to experience such, I mean, pandemic every 5 years or something like that. I mean, with the pace going, and it can be even faster than that. So I just want to not be traumatized about what's the pandemic and everyone so panicking. We have started already. I mean, everyone in every aspect. I mean, I have been purchasing things from Amazon starting 2001 or even before, when I was in the US. And FedEx, I mean, I gave it credit because it was compared to others, it was at least punctual in delivering things, and at least people were keen to deliver things in one piece. Let's put it this way. So and the progress has been ever since. I mean, the pandemic, the COVID-19, I believe it made some things more visible, the importance more visible. It encouraged, it was a catalyst, but it did not initiate things. Things were already there. I mean, the criteria for the security and things, I mean, we found ourselves that we are in more need of that. So we started developing or speeding things up in this area. And with that pace, I believe it's going to continue as such, either we're having a pandemic or not pandemic. The research and the development in FedEx about the robots itself, it started, I mean, way before the pandemic. It is exploited now. I mean, the university automation system, the quality table system, I mean, trying to put everything in a digital, intelligent format. Actually, it started in 2018. So what I'm saying, that really it's interesting to see how the pandemic has managed to speed things up a little bit. Just be careful from the social aspect. I mean, it's going to be very harmful if we are really going everyone to just spend his entire life beyond or behind a computer screen monitoring things. I mean, it's not good for the back, it's not good for the neck, it's not good for the soul itself. So I hope we come back to campus. I hope we come back to work. I really hope that we come back, I mean, with physical interaction and face to face, to shake hands again. This is good for the health. So if we're going to stay online and remote and just exploit all the AI, the digital, the top-notch things on that, then, and I believe we're going to be a crazy nation in a few years. So let's hope that we go back, maintaining the technology that is preserving and improving our way of life. Thank you again for the invitation for this very interesting conference. And I mean, at least I could say it has contributed to change my, or to improve my view of MOT over that I've built over the years. And my colleagues, they know that very well. Thank you very much again.
Wow, this is one of the issues, the secret that should reveal that Dr. Wael was always challenging us about the role of MOT, and it is one of the key competitive edge for Nile University. Thank you, Dr. Wael, for this comment and the value creation, value proposition, and value harvesting. But Dr. Masoud, the last comment before we move to Dr. Khalil to run the close of the session. Dr. Masoud.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Sami. You know, I'm in the presence of amazing colleagues. All I will share with you is three things. The cost of developing and deploying a modernized, stronger, more secure, more resilient, and smarter critical infrastructure is, for whether it is assisted for a whole bunch of communities. Actually, 3 blocks from where I live is burnt after the killing of George Floyd. And North Minneapolis, which is the African-American heavy concentration of the city, we have a project to do workforce training, children from 4th grade to 70-year-olds, kind of what we did together for Saudi Arabia for the business Olympiad, Innovation Business Olympiad We are doing it up there. There is a gentleman who owns a 20,000 square meter facility. We are just beginning to create the workforce, mostly from underrepresented men and women, boys and girls, who are Black, who do not have opportunity that many of us take for granted. So having said that, I wanted to share with you my own humble beginnings that some of you know. My parents were medical doctors. This is me outside my hometown of Tabriz. My parents helped bring electricity to about 12 villages. And because without electricity, medicine doesn't work. You don't have cooling, you don't have refrigeration, you don't have clean. This is my father, Dr. Muhammad Shafia Amin. This is my older brother, Mahmoud Amin. This is me riding a donkey. And here hanging from this pipe, bringing water, that's the electrical line. This is the day we saw the pump operate. This is the chieftain, Mir Jamal, the chieftain of the village. This is when I was 11 or so. And this is the one harvest season, the following harvest season, cracked soil, you can relate to it. And then I had the privilege of leaving, or by just chance, leaving Iran before revolution and doing what I did. So there is immense potential. This is what got me. My real strength were in social sciences and humanities, not in engineering. And this is just 4 years ago in China. The microgrid that I had designed is now used as standard to create microgrids in China. And they welcomed me, awarded me, treated me with a lot of kindness and generosity. But you see, going from riding the donkey, following my parents in villages to this is possible. If it is possible when you have lost 19 classmates killed by Chemical Ali in southern Iran, southern part of Iran, in the war between Iran and Iraq that should have never been, and you have had 14 classmates who have been killed during the revolution in Iran. I'm very fortunate to do this. And because of this, I want to share with you this, that we are resilient, and misfortune happens to all of us, happens to our systems. And I thank you for bringing this amazing dialogue to the conference and to hold it of all the places in Egypt, which is so important. Not that it has brought, it's an ancient civilization, most likely more than people project. It's probably 10,000 plus years old, but it has great capability, culture, heritage, and my hat is off to you. This great civilization can leapfrog the rest of the world because you have very little legacy, hopefully systems that you can just leapfrog. And I think you can be at the forefront of proactively building the leadership as you're doing at Nile University and with partnership with other entities, and address and confront all the challenges we are talking about and make the challenges into opportunities. With that, my hat is off to you and I'm at your service, my dear brothers and sisters in beautiful Egypt and all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Amin. Dr. Khalil, last remarking.
No, I just wanted to thank all the panelists for a wonderful presentation and discussion. Important topics, obviously essential. It shows the quality of the activities that we have in IAMOT, the quality of the people that are presenting, the importance of the topics that are very timely. And now the conference draws to an end. I wanted to thank everybody that participated. It has been wonderful, almost 5 days of continuous discussions, seminars, multiple sessions, panel discussions, keynote addresses, and but the amount of knowledge that people brought to this conference, and I think to this world, are immense. And I am very grateful to everyone that participated in here. And indeed, it has been a pleasure to be part of this. It has been a pleasure to be with all of you. I thank you for participating. Thank you for being part of this. This was our first virtual conference, but I dare to say it was a great success, even a resounding success. But certainly we miss the physical interaction. We would like to see you. We would like to shake hands. We would like to smile and sit across each other in a table to eat together and to communicate. So hopefully next year we have the conference in Cairo in September 19th. Make your arrangements. I hope the COVID-19 will be over. We will have a vaccine. Let's look to the future. Let's hope and enjoy the camaraderie that all of you bring to all of us in here. We appreciate it, and thank you, Nizar, for your wonderful leadership of the panel and of many of the activities in the conference. I thank all my colleagues that helped make this conference a reality. I won't be able to mention all of them right now, but I would invite the people to attend. We have a short closing ceremony in here and awards to recognize the people that helped with this conference. And they are all wonderful young people that are going to be the future of this, hopefully, and will lead the world as we move forward. So have a nice day. Nizar, if you can tell the people how to join our closing ceremonies, then I am all
yes. You are all invited to attend our closing.
We have some certificates for the presenters, Nizar. So
Okay.
if you don't mind, we're going to show them right now. And the group picture as usual.
Yes.
This is for you, Nizar. Thank you very much for leading this panel in here and being a moderator. Appreciate it. Basil Khalil, thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. It was great to see what's going on in supply chain and logistics. Engineer Muhammad Azam, thank you extremely well for the areas of workforce and what is expected for the future. Dr. Wael, it's an amazing project that we are all excited about. I think it's going to put Nile University and the project in a leadership position all over the world, not only in Egypt, but all over the world. Dr. Masoud Amin, my great friend, has always been a supporter of us, has been wonderful. He has taught many of our graduate students. We had a partnership with the University of Minnesota for many years, and Dr. Masoud was always a supporter and leader of that activity, and we thank you very much, Masoud, for leadership all over the country and everywhere.
Thank you.
Nizar, it's all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Tariq. Thank you, all our distinguished panelists and all our audience. It's now for time for the last but not least group picture. Okay, for the public sessions, please smile. I will take a couple of shots. So smile, get ready. Okay. Wow. Smile. It's one shot. Okay. One more. Okay. I will share with you right now the link to the closing ceremony. So all our distinguished participants are more than welcome to attend. We will switch the rooms, so stay tuned. Okay, and we wish to see you there and see a lot of secrets. Thank you very much. It was a real pleasure being with you for a whole week, the week of management of technology here from Cairo, Egypt. Thanks and have a nice time, and see you after a few minutes in our closing ceremony. Thank you very much. Have a nice time. Bye.
The Zoom link is sent, Nizar?
Yes, Dr. Tara, it was sent, yes.